Miya Folick, Roach, album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this second full-length album from Miss Miya Folick. She is an LA-based singer, songwriter. I've been meaning to chat about her for a while now because I have been a fan of her stuff since the release of her first EP, Strange Darling. I thought this EP at the time was just what I needed in modern indie. I mean, it wasn't mind-blowing or genre-defining, but for an indie folk album, this was exactly what I was looking for. Not only did it have a really great atmosphere to it, it was a little ethereal at times, but it also had a ton of grit and heart. Now, her Give It To Me EP showed her kind of steer away from the folkier side of her music and go for a much more straightforward indie project, which did worry me from afar, to be perfectly honest, but between her heart and her songwriting and her passion, it ended up being a damn knockout. And I mean, I really just should have reviewed her Premonitions debut album. I mean, the thing is great. It's not a perfect album, but it's some of the most engaging indie rock to have come out that year. Some of the most eclectic, too. Like, she took a lot of risks on this album. Now, the last time we heard from Miya was last year's 2007 EP. Also, spoiler alert, all the tracks from the 2007 EP show up on Roach, which I thought was a pretty decent EP. I mean, I cringed pretty hard at Oh God, and at the time I really wasn't that into Ordinary. But the rest of this EP I thought was pretty solid, which leads me to her second full-length album, Roach. I thought most of the singles were pretty decent leading up to this thing. Let's chat about it. I'm not going to sugarcoat. This album is, you know, I don't think it's a perfect album, but Miya continues to be a real shining star in modern indie. Like, take, for example, Bad Thing. This track takes me back to what I initially enjoyed about her music so damn much. It's a little atmospheric, it's a little pensive, but it's got that heart, it's got that grit to it. There are so many little details here, like the soulful saxophones and the patient drumming. It's just a real knockout of a tune. It is a fantastic, driven, just personality-fueled indie rock tune, which I always love, and I really commend Miya's Tales of Her Youth. Get Out of My House, I mean, how do you not love this track? This was one of the first singles that really caught my ear. I just love how upbeat and explosive it is. I just love the energy that we get on this track. It's almost Sleater-Kinney sounding. I mean, I've always loved hearing her freak out a little, and this track is no different. It's got fully spirited bars, it's got that punky attitude, it's great. And I do truly believe that Nothing to See is the best track that we get here. This is a dense, emotional track of just not feeling adequate. Not being able to compete. It is a track of conflicting feelings and not knowing exactly where you stand, and it is powerful. Miya's Tales of Heartbreak just draw you in immediately, and her vocal performance, which is just so tender here, really makes you stick around. That, alongside of a very pensive, almost hypnotic instrumental, makes for another hell of a tune. Drugs Are People is much more stripped down. It is much more of a visually intense track. And you know what? It's very effective. Miya has a really strong knack for taking these themes of her tracks and making them very universal. It's all about the little details, and there's so many good ones here. I mean, if you think that indie is running out of ideas, I mean, listen to this. I don't know. I want to love this album from start to finish and praise it just non-stop. But God, there's some pretty cringe moments and some pretty boring moments too. Oh God. Like, it has not grown on me at all. Lyrically, this album is nothing short of like a feast most of the time. Her lyrics are a huge selling point to this album, but her tales of religion and lack thereof in her life just seems to be more misguided than anything on this track. And her vocals are not nearly up to snuff with the rest of the album. I mean, every other track I feel like has a stronger vocal palette than this. I hear moments like Cockroach, and I'm shocked by how little this stands out. I mean, on one hand, I do commend her very visceral, intense lyrical performance once again. It's a knockout. But the weird production choices and her underwhelming vocals on this track, not up to snuff. I mean, no, literally, this instrumental sounds like it has no idea what it wants to do. It's awkward. Cartoon Clouds, on the other hand, this is a tough one. Lyrically speaking, I think it's maybe one of the best tracks here. It really does stand out. Once again, this wasteland of an instrumental is so all over the place. It's like Miya wanted to do a really artsy, weird, far-out tune, but like got nervous halfway through. It's not good. And Shortstop, as a finale, it's certainly not bad. I mean, I just wish that I could just say, hell yes, this is a great finale, because her vocal performance on this tune is nothing short of angelic, and maybe her best one here. But everything else about this track, from the instrumental to the production, is just so boring, so unbearably faceless. I just think that it just kind of misses the mark a little bit. It's not the worst track here, and I do commend her vocals because they are incredible. Outside of that, though, for a modern indie album, yeah, there's a ton to like on here. It's probably going to end up being one of the better indie rock albums of the year. Now, outside of the aforementioned Get Out of My House, there's a lot of slow burners on this album. But Mommy, to me, just really stands out. Miya's laser-focused performance on top of these almost, I don't know, psychedelic guitars and airy synths, it's pretty mesmerizing. And there are some incredible one-liners. The one about where my parents end and I begin. Wow. Also, shout-outs to the very soulful, dreamy sax that kind of wraps up this track. This track's awesome. I do really still like 2007. I think it actually hits a little harder on the album. It's once again a very, conflicting track lyrically, going into thoughts of being afraid of strangers, but also being really lonely. It's an already powerful track that's made even bigger by her vocal performance. And Tetherball, God, this is so good. Some of her lyrics on this track just cut so deep. And yes, some of her analogies, yeah, they may get a little cliche, but I think she gets a pass. The very stripped down, pulsating electronic beat behind Miya just sounds so good. I mean, it's a pretty ambitious tune, and it's not one of her more instantaneous tracks, for sure, but it's so worth it. So Clear is just a late album triumph. This track rules. I love the jittery synths, and once again, we get a real standout vocal performance. She sounds incredible, and arguably, this track, this is like her synth pop single, but it comes off like a damn anthem. It's not the catchiest track in the genre I've heard all year, but it may be one of the most heartfelt and personal. And Ordinary late in the album is just a really sweet little, quaint little, beautiful ballad. It's stripped down, it's unbearably visual at times, her vocals are great once again. I mean, yeah, so much of this album is just really great, lyrical driven, visual indie rock with a ton of heart and a ton of passion. I mean, there's some odd choices on this album, like some of the artsier instrumentals that definitely miss the beat, the still very cringeworthy "Oh God," and just the inclusion of the entire 2007 EP on this album. I mean, I wish she just mixed it up a little bit more. This album is so close to being a real knockout to me, but I don't know, some of the decisions on this album as a whole, not for me. Some cringeworthy moments, but still, Miya is an absolute shining star in modern indie, and this is probably one of the better, just more complete indie rock albums that you're going to hear this year. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album. Let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.